I rely on my caregiver and family for rides if I am unable to take the bus.
Yeah, you have a backup plan. And one thing that Gracie does is have lots of folks in her life that can tag team and help. Isn't that right, Gracie?
Yeah. Yes, it sure is. And I get a lot of nice compliments when I wear like something nice.
Yeah. So we call those natural supports when you have friends and family members and neighbors and people from your church that help you out. And sometimes we call that ride sharing. So Gracie, I know, does a lot of ride sharing with her friends. And Chelsea gives you a lot of rides. Is that right? Yeah. And I heard that you were in Chelsea's wedding.
Yeah, and I was the maid of honor, and I cried so bad because I thought Chelsea or Rachel died, because I didn't know at first, like when I was giving a speech at the wedding, like I didn't know, and then all of a sudden I hopped in and cut the cake with him.
So when you were maid of honor, you got to do a speech and cut the cake. And
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and Chelsea helps you as a community living support person. Yeah.
Yes.
So you have figured out ways to use your Michelle P. waiver to hire people that can help take you all the places you need to go. Yeah. I'm going to go on to a different question, and that is, we've talked a lot about city buses, but a lot of smaller cities have community transit systems too, thanks to the transportation cabinet and the counties that invest in rural transit. And these are places like Ashland, Danville, Georgetown, Madisonville, Moorhead. A lot of the services are connected with the Community Action Agency. So, for example, Montgomery County, which is where I'm from, the Gateway Community Action Agency has a bus service, and it's the whole county. They'll take you door to door, and it's $1 per trip. Kentucky River Foothills is an agency that has a transit service called Foothills Express. And they've provided 3 million rides for residents of Clark, Estill, Madison, and Powell County. So one of the things the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has is a list, which is searchable by county. And you can see all the public transit in your county, the cost, the number you would call. And sometimes folks look at that list and they didn't realize that their county had a service. So that's really helpful. And I'm going to, at the end of the meeting today, I have a handout so you could see where that link is. So public transit's really important. And I know some of you have used it in smaller towns. Danielle, you mentioned you wrote it in Moorhead.
Yes, this is Danielle. I did write it on several occasions in Moorhead. I primarily used it to get to Walmart and get groceries and then come back. I will say it was kind of a process because yes, it was convenient. However, the bus ran on every hour, so it was kind of an all-day event just to go to Walmart. And so I didn't do it super often, but I did do it, you know, on occasion when I really needed stuff. And Walmart, and I also did ride the campus bus pretty often, particularly in the wintertime when it was really, really cold. I would ride it because who wants to walk all the way across campus in 10-degree weather?
And you mentioned when you're able to use the app that it really helps you because being deafblind, you need to have that information in an accessible way.
Yes. Yeah, for me, riding the bus and figuring out the routes is the easy part. The challenging part for me as a deafblind person is I can't reliably hear the stop announcements, and I can't really hear the driver anymore. So for me to be able to ride the bus, I'm really looking at the transit app. I get on the bus, I'm looking at the app to see the stops. If it's a route I've done before, then I can kind of guess at it. But I've learned that they don't always stop at all the stops. If there's nobody there, the bus doesn't stop and it doesn't show up on the app. So that's one, tricky part to navigate, but it does help to be like, oh, I'm past where I need to be, or oh wait, I might be coming up soon. Maybe I should next time this bus stops, I'm gonna at least tell the driver.
Yeah.
To let me know. And I will also use communication cards sometimes that says, tap me when I'm at this stop. And I solicited assistance from other bus riders in that regard too.
A new question. Some people do what's called ride share, or they ride with a friend or a family member. You all know I work at UK, and I have a friend who's 20, and she rides with me a couple days a week when I go to work, and then she's going to class. And I love it because we get to chat and we get to catch up on what's going on, and it helps me, just not be alone, and I get to touch base with my friends. So, do you ever ride share? And if you rely on friends or family to ride, what do you need to do to make that work? Gracie, I know you have an answer for this one.
I have to ask for a ride, then I need to make sure I am ready when they arrive.
Yeah. So if you're not ready when they arrive, you think they'll get like impatient with you?
Yes.
Yeah. So you get ready and make sure you're there at the right time.
Yes. Right.
I also think that you really appreciate the people that give you rides, don't you?
Right.
How do you show that appreciation?
You say thank you?
Yeah, and I say thank you. Sometimes I ride in my friend Paige's car because last time
She's a good friend.
Yeah, she's just a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to another question. Have you received any driver training? And that's a service that's offered through the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. So I know some of you have had driver training. If you could tell us about that. Katie, I'll let you start.
Hey, so yeah, as I mentioned before, I did receive driver's training when I got my first vehicle and started driving. My driver's trainer, Michelle Coffey, came to me through Voc Rehab with UK. And she's wonderful. She's been with me through a couple of different cars that I've had. And she just kind of guided me through the process. And I think my parents were thankful because they didn't have to do, the teaching me how to drive kind of thing. So I think they were grateful for that. And I mean, they had done some driving with me when I first started, and it was mostly my dad, which he still doesn't love my driving, but dads can be that way at times. I love my daddy, but I've driven quite a lot with both my parents, and just I think we're all very thankful that I was able to have that opportunity through Voc Rehab. Like I said, I think drove with me for about a year or so, and then when I got my newest vehicle, we had to go down to Lexington and do another kind of reeval to see what all I would need for my Pacifica. And so she was very helpful with that as well.
So I'm curious about your vehicle, so what enables you to drive. So you have hand controls, is that it?
Yes,
What's
I love my Pacifica. It's very cool. It's a lot more high tech than I have ever experienced with prior vehicles, but it has automatic doors, automatic hatch. It's got a big screen in the middle for like voice control. Like you can do all kinds of different voice control things with it, and then I drive with the hand controls, which is like there's one mechanism for the gas and brake. So you push on the whole thing to brake, and then there's like a little twist lever on the top for the gas. And then my gear shift is different in my Pacifica than I've ever used. It's a little like turn dial thing, which is weird to me because I've never used that before. But I've gotten used to it. It's just different. Oh gosh, there's so many other things I could talk about with my car, but I'm just like, it blows my mind all the things that you can do with it. But it's very high tech.
Where did you go when you were looking at a vehicle? How does a person with a disability really get fitted with the right vehicle for them?
So I was fortunate enough to be referred to Superior Mobility in Lexington. They are amazing. They've basically provided me with options for every car that I've driven. My first vehicle, I believe we purchased ourselves and then had Voc Rehab go through the process of getting it approved for me to have hand controls and everything in it. But we purchased that vehicle ourselves, found it here through a dealership locally, and then purchased it ourselves. And then after that, I don't remember. See, after that, I got a red Mazda 5, but I can't remember where we purchased it. But then my Pacifica was purchased through Superior. Sorry. It was purchased through Superior. They have a gentleman that kind of helps clients look for vehicles that would be a good fit that they can modify. And we went through it was a process. We went through a lot of searching, and just to find the right fit and everything. And girls, I know you probably understand this, but we can be picky when it comes to like car color and all the aesthetic things. Ashley's smiling; she knows what I'm talking about. But we can kind of be picky, and so it was a little bit. We kind of went through a little bit of just back and forth trying to find the right fit and everything. But we luckily, my car is beautiful and I love it. If I could find a picture of it, I'll pull it up. Do you care?
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I wanted to ask you though, sometimes folks with a disability like yours, they might not ever drive their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want you to tell me what has being able to drive a modified vehicle independently, what has that done for your life?
So much. It has really built my confidence, for one thing, most importantly, I feel like, in just allowing me to feel like I can do things on my own. Like I can get out and go anywhere I want to go, do anything I want to do, and really build on my advocacy for people with a disability. My platform has always been, yes, I have a disability, but like I can do anything that I want to do, be anything I want to be, and I want to show people the same. And so that has really helped me in that aspect. Just reaffirming that to myself, being able to know that I can do that.
I want to ask about jobs next. So I know all of you all actually work, or you're getting ready to start a job. And we'll start with Danielle, because I think Danielle is just moving into her career. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is actually not my first job. I actually my first job was with Kentucky School for the Blind as a paraeducator, and then I got another job offer through the American Foundation for the Blind shortly after moving to Louisville to take the job at KSB. And in that role, I spent like a year as an apprentice doing, learning about digital accessibility. It was a paid apprenticeship. And then after I completed my requirements, our titles changed from Talent Lab apprentices to digital accessibility specialist. So after that, I worked with AFB and their client projects as a digital accessibility specialist for a few months. And so while I was doing that, I was job searching. And then I also briefly worked with Allied Instructional Services, working with a blind student virtually on assistive technology. And now I'm about to take on the full-time position at the American Printing House for the Blind in communication accessibility editor, which is essentially the same thing, except not doing as much with websites testing for accessibility, but primarily dealing with documents and multimedia content and ensuring those are accessible.
Danielle, you have such a rich work experience. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh my goodness, you've had a lot of experience. Now I know Gracie. Gracie's 18, and are you working a job? Are you in a job training
Yes.
about that?
I worked with Build Inclusion to learn about job readiness through Tates Creek High School. I am training at a daycare center. I work with 4 and 5-year-olds in the mornings. So it's basically everything.
So you're working at a daycare center. How do you like that?
Well, yes, I like it so much because I like working because the kids are so cute. One day I will work for money.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids are cute. It's rewarding. But money is the most important thing, right, Gracie?
Yes.
Yeah. Being able to earn a living it does so much for your confidence, and it gives you, so many friends and, a purpose in life. Ashley, you are entering your career years. Is that right? What's your background in education, and what career are you going for?
So like I said, I'm getting ready to graduate from UK's rehabilitation counseling program and get my CRC. I am currently interning. It took me a while to find the right place, but I am currently interning at I wouldn't call it residential, but it's a day training center for individuals with brain injury, and I help with cognitive rehabilitation and planning and memory and executive function and things like that. And they currently don't have a CRC position open, but because a lot of people forget that we exist. So I'm hoping through interning there, more people will see my potential because I've definitely noticed a change in my client. As someone in a wheelchair, and I think it's interesting to see the connection between and the differences between somebody with an acquired uh, versus a condition you were born with. So that's really been a learning curve for me, trying to figure out where they're coming from and sharing my experiences as somebody with a congenital disability. So it's been really interesting to see their viewpoints and things like that.
How many of you girls have a master's degree? Andrea, you do. Ashley, I think, is in the process. And Andrea, you want to tell us about your background and where you work?
I have a master's in rehabilitation counseling, but I've worked at UK Hospital. I'm on my 25-year anniversary this year, and it's been rewarding. And my back, it's just been really good.
So let me get this straight. I know the UK Hospital, in order to keep your employment there, you have to be at work on time and you can't miss a bunch of days. You've worked 25 years at UK Hospital and you use public transit for the most part to get there. Is that right?
I do a mixture of public transit and paratransit, yes.
So I'm sure you've hit some snags along the way. What are some tips that you do? I mean, how do you make it work? How have you worked 25 years relying on a system that sometimes there are ups and downs?
Well, when I first came to Lexington, they didn't run on Saturday and Sunday. The buses didn't. And it was either Lyft, or back then Yellow Taxi, or I had relied on people I worked with to get to and from work. I'd offer them a stipend, or they'd just offer me a ride to and from work.
Yeah, that's when I do technical assistance with folks that are looking for a job and they have a ride during the week with public transit, but then on the weekends they are stuck and they're afraid they're going to lose their job. I suggest like what you've talked about with me. Look at your coworkers, find a solution, see if you can work out. I'll give you gas money if you give me a ride. So I know you have done constant troubleshooting, but you always find a way to make it work.
Yeah. It's on you. It's up to you whether or not you want to make it or not. It's on you. That's the way I look at it.
You are a person that's such a strong advocate, and I know you've served on the university senate. Is that right?
Yes, I still do.
You're still on the staff senate.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and when I first started my job, would you like me to tell that story?
Yeah.
When I first started at UK, it was part of their policy that if you had a seizure at work, you had to go to the ER. Well, it was on your dime because it was a pre-existing condition. And so I went to the vice president of equity at that time at the university, and I said, you have to draw a hard line for your policies and all, but it's actually a line in the sand because it's different for everyone. Everyone has their own ways of coping, and everybody's got something. And so I said, I said, don't treat me like I'm stupid. I know when I'm not able to go back to work, and I always kept a change of clothes because every once in a while you have incontinence with a seizure. And so I was prepared that if that to happen, I would have a change of clothes to be able to go back to work if I was able to. And I was just prepared. You know, you just it's on you, whether or not you want to be successful or not.
Having you as a friend has done so much for me as a parent because, as you know, my son has epilepsy and he's 19 now, and I want him to work and do lots of things despite having epilepsy. And, you know, sometimes you have a seizure and then you go on with your day. And that's something that you've done in order to cope.
Yes, I mean, that's just what you do, because growing up, I was told, you know, you get out there and play with the rest of them, and seizures happen, life goes on.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that somebody's got their mic on, and that's in the audience. If you could mute that, that would help us.
It might actually be me. It's Danielle. I lost internet connection.
Oh, that's fine, Danielle. I'm glad you're back. We're talking about jobs, and I want to know, why do you work? You know, some folks with disabilities may not work, and others want that job at 18, just like Gracie. So why do you work? Why do you feel like working is important for you? Gracie, do you want to start?
I like working because the kids are so cute. One day I want to work for money.
Yeah, you want money. That's right. That's your purpose in working.
Say that.
Katie, is that why you work? What is it that you do? You are a
Okay, so I am a reading teacher for K through 5 students, and my why I could sum up in 2 reasons. One, I love the ability to be able to support myself and to provide myself with an income, and be able to feel like I'm stable and independent. And the other reason is I love kids. I love what I do. Those kids are like the best way to brighten your day. I could be having like the worst day, and those kids just like, they just have a way of making everything better. So those are my 2 whys.
Aw. Danielle, as a person that's deafblind, why do you want, and you had a lot of work experience from a young age. Why do you work? Let me make sure Danielle's able to still be with us. Danielle, are you there? Okay, we'll go on. Ashley, why do you want to work?
Okay. I had to make sure I was unmuted. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
So I work because I'm a very social creature and I don't like to be in one place for too long.
Same, Ashley.
I don't like to sit at home and watch TV because there's only so many episodes of, you know, Friends or whatever you can watch before it gets boring. But like I said, I work because for the social opportunities and because I just love people, and I want to be able to make a difference in people's lives, and to know that I can make a difference just by being out there. And like I said with my clients, even like it's just a night and day difference. Like I came in and they're talking to me more. Some of them can't communicate, but like I communicate through music. They listen to music and they're able to once you turn like an Aerosmith song on, they're communicating and talking, and you know, they're just not able to communicate very much. But once you turn that music on and make that connection with them, they're completely different people, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
So, just to have those authentic connections with people is amazing.
Andrea, why do you work?
Well, it was part of my upbringing that you were meant to work. My great grandfather told me the social system was there for those that really need it. But you're really meant to work in life. So that was part of my upbringing all along, that it was expected for me to work. That was when you could work when you were 14, and so I'm telling my age, so but and she's right. Ashley's right. It gets so boring just being at home all the time. You know, this just the socialization of it all, and being able to work at UK Healthcare, you're able to help those in their time of need. And, you're able to be of some kind of, you're contributing to someone else's, um, at their lowest versus, thinking about how bad you've got, or you look at all the people around you in the hospital and they're at their lowest, and it makes you feel a whole lot better. You got up in the morning, you were able to go to work, and you're helping those that can't necessarily help themselves at that point.
Danielle, have you been able to join us again?
I believe so. I don't know why it wasn't letting me unmute for some reason.
That's okay. You tell us why you work.
So, a lot of, a lot of the same reasons that others said. I also kind of grew up like Andrea, and I was always taught that if you can do it yourself, you do it yourself and not rely on others, which also kind of applies to, relying on the government to, provide you with, a means of living. So I always grew up knowing I did not want to live on a government check. And also, I, being involved in the deafblind community, there's about 70% of blind people are unemployed. About 80% of deafblind people are unemployed. And that was my goal. I did not want to be part of that 80% of deafblind people sitting at home without a job. And I, coming from a rural area, wanted to make sure that I was able to support myself and live on my own and not have my parents taking care of me my whole life.
Danielle, you have moved independently from small towns all the way to Louisville in order to have all the opportunities you needed. Is that right?
Yes.
I want to ask you, you mentioned that 80% of people who are deafblind are not in the workforce.
Yes.
All of you are I'm curious, what do you think about your upbringing or the experience you've had have made you pursue and overcome and be persistent in the ways you have?
I think I think a lot of it has to do with, I had parents who expected me to be successful. I've been around a lot of individuals that are deafblind, and the one thing, I see that's so prevalent is, it's because of communication, because of the dual sensory, a lot of parents are, taking control and pretty much controlling what they can and can't do, even as adults. I see it happening a lot. And I think because my parents, pushed me to go do things and to be independent and to think for myself, and and let me make mistakes. That has probably made one of the biggest difference in my life.
So you mentioned your parents letting you make mistakes, and as my son was going from his teenage years, getting ready to graduate from high school, one of my coworkers, whose opinion I value a lot, it's actually Walt, who's introduced us today. He told me about the dignity of risk. And the dignity of risk means, you might mess up, you might fail miserably, but you want to have that opportunity. Gracie, why don't you chime in for us?
Okay. My mom started a nonprofit which helps people with disabilities find jobs. Everyone can work if they want to with the right supports.
So your mom has taken not just your experience, but she wants to help other folks too.
Yes.
What is that organization called?
Build inclusion.
Mhm.
Katie, do you want to chime in?
Yes, I will. So I think like to echo Danielle's sentiment about how like I was very similar in the fact that my parents wanted me to be independent. They wanted me to be able to work and to have the things that I wanted to have, and to just be able to know that I'm capable of doing anything that I want to do in life. And I've had several adults, people in my family that have pushed me to be the same way because they recognize my potential and they want to see me succeed. So I've been very fortunate in that.
So I want to ask all of you, if there's a high school student out there listening, or if there are parents of a young person with a disability out there listening, what do you need to say to them? Andrea?
Let them be their own voice. Don't speak for them. Speak to them, speak with them. Let them have their own voice. Because that you have to listen to them, not what's most convenient for the parent or what's easiest for the parent, but what does the individual want?
Ashley, what's your advice to parents or to young people?
So I kind of want to piggyback off what Andrea was saying, like, because if kids learn that that their opinion doesn't matter, then that's gonna be detrimental to mental health. Just the ability to self advocate is a godsend, because if you're able to say what you like and what you don't like, and I want to try this job and this job, but I may not be able to do this job, and um it like being able to just dabble in things and different options has really helped me become more confident in just life and uh, work and different things.